A friend of mine and I walked into Sushi Saki an hour before it closed. We were our server's only table. I ordered an Arnold Palmer, my friend ordered an IPA. She brought us 2 beers. How was I going to respond? For context, my name is Kevin Finch and I'm the executive director of Big Table. I run a nonprofit that cares for folks in crisis in the restaurant and hospitality industry. I also was a food critic for 10 years. But rather than blow her up for messing up our drink order, I simply asked a question. Are you okay? She wasn't. She started to cry and she said, tomorrow morning I have to go to court to find out if I have to go back to prison. And I don't know who's going to take care of my daughter. I never got her name. The check, when it came, simply said server number 3. But I will never forget her story. And sadly, her story is not an isolated one. The highest concentration of need in our nation is hidden behind the smiles of people who work in restaurants and hotels. This massive industry is the largest employment group in the nation, and 2 critical statistics reveal why what Big Table does is so critical. First, poverty rates. Nearly half of the people who work in restaurants are either below or at the poverty line. Every single one of the 10 lowest paying jobs in our country, out of over 500 that are tracked by the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, is a restaurant or hospitality job. Every single one. And then addiction. This one industry posts the highest rates of addiction of any industry for both drugs and alcohol. Not just high, the highest. Why this incredible concentration of poverty and addiction in this one place? The answer is simple. Restaurants and hotels offer the lowest barrier to entry jobs in our nation. So all of the most vulnerable people who are still able to work, why they work in the restaurant and hospitality industry in concentrations that are not matched anywhere else. Think single moms, at-risk teens, income insecure seniors. Those who are new to this country, or those who are returning to work after time in prison. And when you put this many people who are right on the edge together under one roof, you get exactly what we see. Not just crushing poverty and life-shattering addiction, but every major risk factor that we track. And these are the people who welcome us and serve us every single day. It is time to turn the tables. Here's a novel idea. What if those serving us experienced abundant hospitality themselves, rather than isolation and deepening despair in the midst of a crisis? Think about it. Every single thing that we measure around hospitality is about us, whether that's on Zagat or TripAdvisor, Yelp, or OpenTable. They're all about us, about our experience, about how well we were treated. And now you know the highest concentration of need in our nation is hidden behind the smiles of the very people who are serving you in that moment. It is time to turn the tables. What if we cared for them as intentionally as they care for us? What if server number 3 didn't have to go into court alone, but instead was surrounded by a community of people who were caring for her and her daughter every step of the way? It is time to turn the tables. And this is exactly what Big Table does, responding first to whatever crisis is most critical. Now that could be an emergency root canal, or that could be rental assistance to keep a whole family from ending up homeless. It could be connections to combat serious depression, or resources to deal with crippling debt. Whatever the need is, we jump in to help at that point of crisis. But then we stay involved in that person's life. For Nicole, it was Desiree who first turned the tables and reached out to Big Table for help. By the way, this is something that you can do. All it takes is less than 5 minutes on our website to put in a referral. Desiree had just hired Nicole as a new bartender. And as Nicole was leaving, Desiree looked out the window of the restaurant and saw Nicole pushing her car out of the parking spot. She went out and asked what was wrong. Nicole laughed sheepishly and said that her car didn't have reverse. There was also another glaring problem with this particular automobile. It was a convertible, and the top was stuck down. So anytime it rained or snowed, which it does fairly often in the Northwest, Nicole's car turned into a moving bathtub. Now for anyone, this would be miserable. For Nicole, it was a nightmare. She was a single mom with 3 little kids. So as she drove away, Desiree picked up the phone and called me and said, "Kevin, is there any chance that Big Table could get a car, a better car for my new bartender?" What I didn't tell Desiree in that phone conversation is that we had absolutely no resources to get a car at that point. But rather than say no, I said simply, "Let me see what we can do." And literally the next day, and this is the first time this ever happened, a woman called me and said, "Hey, Kevin, we were thinking of donating our used car somewhere. Is there any chance Big Table could use that car?" The very next week, we were able to deliver that car to Nicole and her kids. And as she and the kids piled out of their house to see their sweet new ride, her oldest son, Clayton, who was 11 at the time, said, "Mom, try R and see if it works." Now that car met a critical need for Nicole and her kids. But what changed her life long term was a mentoring relationship and a friendship with Big Table. You see, abundant hospitality is always going to be about more than triage care. Abundant hospitality has to be about relationship. And it is that relationship that changes a person's story long term. 3 years after we gave Nicole that car, she and I were sitting down for a cup of coffee. And she said this, "Kevin, that car helped me get to work. It helped me get my kids to school. It helped me stay in college and get my degree. But I would trade that car in a second for the chance to have been in relationship with Big Table. It was the relationship with you that changed my life." It is time to turn the tables. Now you know the highest concentration of need in our nation is hidden behind the smiles of those who work in restaurants and hotels. Would you be one of us who chooses to care? You can, you know, because wherever you live, the people that Big Table serves work. I bet you even already know some of their names. It is time to turn the tables, for us to serve those who serve us.